Hi there, and welcome to our January Pier Into the Night with Harbor Wild Watch. Tonight we're switching things up a little bit, and we're actually going to take you to a popular dive site. We will not be diving underneath the pier here because if we flip around we can see that there are folks out there and they are fishing. They're jigging for squid, and so that would be an unsafe place for us to go for a little splash because we might get caught. While we won't be diving underneath this pier per se, there is a popular dive site just out the way, and so we'll go for a little splash, explore, see what we see, and share that with you as we go along. So thank you so much for tuning in, and as always, we'd love to know where you're tuning in from. What warm, cozy couch are you on? Where are you watching from? We want to know. Maybe not the couch exactly, but more your geographical location. What city are you tuning in from? And of course, as we go along, let us know if you have any questions in the comments. Thank you so much for tuning in to the first pier of the year, and we'll see how this goes. We're so excited. Thanks for joining. Ready? Let's go diving. Diving with us tonight is Michelle Jones, telling us she's okay to go down. We're super thankful to have good dive buddies like her. And then, of course, there's me, Stina Troyer, your science specialist, and we're getting ready to go in the water. So I just put that red filter on that's going to cut some of the green from our emerald seas of the Salish Sea, Puget Sound here. And we're just kind of getting situated as we descend here at Les Davis Marine Park. So you'll see me, fiddling with the camera, getting things how I want them. Now, I do have to apologize in advance. It turns out I experience time very differently underwater than I think I do, where I think I'm sitting on something for 10 seconds, 20 seconds, plenty of time for me to talk about it. I really only look at it for like a split second. And so I've done my best to edit this and give you lots of information and hopefully enough time to see cool things like this little sea anemone that we'll talk more about later because there are plenty of anemones at this site. So we are descending. This is about 20 feet here. It is an evening where the tide was lower, and so kind of still shallow at this point, and we're just gonna make our way out to kind of some sunken rubble. Now, it said it could be from the Narrows Bridge. I don't know how much I believe that, but there's a bunch of concrete slabs and things for us to explore, and it looks like, first things first, here's a black belly eel pout. Now, upon closer inspection, it looks like, its left eye is kind of injured or infected, but hopefully it'll be fine there. So we'll just kind of keep chugging along and see what we see as we go. I see Michelle's lights in the distance. Give me a little circle to let me know she's okay as I catch up to her. But first, look at this beautiful red rock crab. Nice Christmas red. Only one claw for whatever reason. Poor buddy. Okay, creatures, you're having a rough time out here so far. We'll hope to see y'all in better shape as we go. You'll see lots of plankton in the water here. Kind of looks like we're flying through space, but that's all probably either life or poo that we're swimming through. Luckily, not hopefully fecal chloroform, but oh my gosh. Okay, look at this squid. It has a fish in its mouth, that little silvery shine, and this is the Opalescent Squid. It can change colors and is what the folks out fishing on the pier are hunting for. But it looks like this one's doing some hunting itself as it jet propels itself off into the distance. Okay, that was awesome. Squid are very fun to watch, but as you can tell, pretty quick. So glad we got a little glimpse of that buddy there. Cool. Okay, moving right along, we are seeing some of this concrete structure here, getting some fish going on as well as those sea anemones, some big blades of kelp. Definitely not as much seaweed as we'd see in those summer months, but that actually helps for the visibility in the wintertime because with less sunlight we have less algae growing in the water. And here's a nice look at a diversity of life. We have a sea star, a kelp perch, a rockfish, a California sea cucumber, a sea anemone. Life abounds when there is structure, and this is a great example of all sorts of creatures just kind of hanging out. So I think we will be seeing a lot more from where that came from as we dive along here. This is a nice big brown rockfish. And just beyond that rockfish, there's a small year of young. So a rockfish small enough to be less than a year old. I'm checking out my depth because we're now doing some community science as well as a Peer Into the Night dive here. It's good to record the babies that we see, and looks like there's a bigger rockfish, too big to be a year of young, but a nice mottled star next to it. A nice orange long-legged sea star. They come in a variety of colors from traffic cone orange to a more mottly bluish purple red colors. They're very diverse and cool, and it's great to see healthy sea stars like that, especially since just recently in early December, the sunflower star was actually listed on the critically endangered species list. And part of that is due to some of our community science collecting data about sea stars during our summer and winter beach monitoring. So more about that at the first cocktails and fishtails of the year. But let's talk about this copper rockfish down here, which is more brown than brown rockfish, which isn't confusing at all. Okay, it's totally confusing, but that's a copper rockfish with the nice darker brown top dorsal side, and looks like a cool different species of sea star coming up here. This is the giant pink star. They are another large species of sea star. Here's my hand for comparison. They get much bigger than that, kind of that, I don't know, chewed up bubblegum color. They're not quite that fresh bubblegum pink, but a nice light pink for you. And, another big rockfish down there. More of those concrete slabs just covered in life. And then here's a nice look at the world's tallest anemones. These are the giant plumose anemones, showing off their variety of color from white to orange to somewhere in between. I also see some of them have their feeding tentacles out, while others are kind of more retracted and blobular. Totally a word. But they really are eye-catching down here in kind of this drab environment. Looks like there's another brown rockfish here, and I'm going to peek at this anemone on the corner. It looks a little different than the others, and it is indeed the swimming anemone, or also known as the cowardly anemone, because it can pull up off the substrate and actually flop its body in a way that helps it swim from potential predators. So kind of a cool escape mechanism for something you'd look at and think is just totally stuck and sessile. Now, this is an interesting blob. My guess is it's Squid Ink, so is there any squid in there? I'd love to see more of you. Of course, I'm going to reach out and touch it, and I hope it's Squid Ink and not someone's poop, but mysteries abound here in the Puget Sound. We'll just have to wonder on that one. Okay, looking right along, it looks like there's some nice sugar kelp. These big blades are fun to look at because sometimes there's things hiding around them. I'm definitely noticing lots and lots of these little shrimp all over the bottom. My camera didn't do a good job of picking up their glowing eyes, but moving in for a closer peek, there is all sorts of these coon-striped shrimp just all over the bottom of the seafloor here. Kind of thought that one would react a little more, but they're everywhere. Between the shell debris and all this algae, they are just kind of scuttling around, trying not to get eaten. Yeah, they're all over the seafloor here, so cool to see them. And looks like Michelle found a squid jig, some derelict fishing gear, which thanks Michelle for cleaning up this dive site, leaving it better than we found it. Also looks like you have your cutting device out, so in case there's an entanglement issue, you are ready. Way to have safety first. What a good dive, buddy. Thanks, Michelle. Still peeking at all those shrimp all over the bottom and carrying on. I really do like structure like this because it's fun to investigate and see, what's on it or under it or behind it. Kind of taking that closer peek, and we'll see if there's anything cool to show you. Wow. Okay, that fish just got a free meal. That is an interesting thing about night diving, is your light illuminates some prey that predators can capitalize on. So sorry, shrimp. Now, here's a pair of tube-dwelling anemones. They have the really long, filamentous, stinging tentacles, and I'm going to reach out and see if... Nope, no reaction here. Normally, if they were feeling threatened, they could pull into their tube for safety, and whoa! Hey, Rockfish, how you doing? But those tube-dwelling anemones are a favorite food of the giant sea slug. Here's another kind of fun creature to look at reactions. The calcareous tube worm here, next to a nice mottled star. If I reach out to touch it, it hides in its little calcareous tube. How about that? There's some cool adaptations for staying safe against hungry predators here in the Puget Sound. So glad to see that's well. And here we are at 56 feet. We're about 10 minutes into the dive and happy to keep exploring here. So again, more of those concrete slabs all over the place. Anemones and barnacles adorn them all. Noticing Michelle over here kind of getting my attention to, check out the concrete slab hotel here. All those different holes usually have different creatures living inside them, and let's see what she found. It looks like could be something, and okay, we're gonna take a look at the bottom left one, and oh my gosh. Okay, sure enough, this is a very cool find. This is a decorated prickleback. They're a fish that's more active at night, so exciting to see one of these on our night dive, although maybe not surprised. They have the very cool decoration on their head, of course to attract the ladies, but they're kind of a eel-like fish, only not a true eel because they have pectoral fins. So, such a cool find. Sorry about the sudden kick up there, you know. When you see exciting stuff, it's easy to kick up a little mud, and here's a nice rockfish in a little bit more clear visibility. So, hi Rockfish, you look good, but so excited to see that decorated prickleback and nice big rockfish in the distance. Kind of almost want to go back and look at it some more, but instead I'm gonna sneak in a little Stina cameo and say, hey, howdy, how's it going? Okay, carry on. Lovely rockfish here, and behind it is a decorator crab. Didn't quite look at it long enough, surprise, surprise, to figure out what species, but they're a cool crab that adorn themselves with various pieces of seaweed or other bits from their surrounding to help camouflage and blend in well with their surrounding environment. Michelle's circling something to look at over here, so we'll take a closer look and, check that scallop out. This is a bivalve with many eyes, which seems strange for a clam, but what's also strange about them is their ability to swim. They're swimming scallops that are probably some of the most surprising things, more surprising than seeing a cool wolf eel or an octopus, but rather a clam just fluttering in front of your face like a little butterfly. It's delightful and strange, and I love it. You see those a lot at Sunrise Beach Park, but I've never seen a swimming scallop at Las Davis. I guess I'm curious what makes them decide to swim. Anyways, here's some more rockfish hanging out. Little couch potatoes of the sea here. And more of those, slabs. And here's a cool fish. This is a striped sea perch. They're really cool up close. I don't know that I'm going to get close enough for you to see the intricate stripes and facial markings. They kind of have a blue tinge. And oh my gosh, okay, this lingcod came out of nowhere. This is a huge fish that definitely benefits from places like Las Davis Marine Park because this acts as a marine preserve or reserve. Not sure which one way or the other, but they're able to survive and thrive here without being fished. And so, yes, they can get caught if they leave the park, but here they kind of have a safe haven to grow big, which lets you see these huge creatures. I definitely am a little bit intimidated by the lingcod, so let's look at this chitin up close instead of taking a closer peek at that fish. This is an 8-plated snail. You can find these on the beach all the time, stuck to rocks. They are really cool, very prehistoric. and that one, yeah, covered in some sediment. So cool to see that. And I guess keep moving on, because that's the name of the game. Here's another lingcod here. Rockfish, tube-dwelling anemone. Again, I'm going to keep my distance because those lingcods, they have very fierce jaws, lots of teeth, and, you know, they're prized for their muscle, so they're tasty, but a strong swimmer that I'm just not interested in messing with here. So, again, cruising right along. More giant plumose anemones. Looking around, seeing what catches our eye. Kind of never know what you'll see. Sometimes you see a lot of the same stuff, and sometimes you get lucky and see all sorts of different things. I think we've already gotten a pretty good handful of creatures here. There's another one of those striped sea perch down there that I just passed. Who's hiding in this concrete hotel? We'll take a closer look. You can see a mottled star. At the bottom, there's a little rockfish face. And oh, way back there, looks like there's a rockfish hiding out. You can barely see its eyes peeking at us. A sea cucumber, maybe? All sorts of life. Life is everywhere. Another brown rockfish here. Sorry to scare ya. More anemones. That one has some gooey, who knows what that is, maybe either defensive guts or it's going to the bathroom. Hard to tell. Here's another one of those tube-dwelling anemones. Highly recommend Googling YouTube videos of those getting predated upon by the giant nudibranch. It is incredible to watch this slug just like lunge attack at this sea anemone as it pulls itself into its tube for protection, and that anemone or the nudibranch gets kind of pulled into the tube. It's very cool. Worth a Google for sure. Here's a nice red rock crab, and yay, another year of young rockfish. Again, this one's just small enough, I'd say, to at least, you know, recorded depth. So we're at 67 feet, 18 minutes into our dive. Cool to see year of young. Yay, this rocks. Sign for rockfish. Clearly. Very cool. Anyways, okay, here's some more bigger rockfish and some more concrete hotels to check out. Anybody home? There's a tube-dwelling anemone kind of in the mid far back. Not a lot going on in there. Not a bunch. Oh, might have scared that rockfish out of its home. You can find your way back, no worries. Here's a nice red rock crab. Looks like, oh, it's probably having some dinner here. Looks like it's munching on a little tube worm sticking up out of the sand. I've never thought of tube worms as that delicious, but you're kind of making it look like you're enjoying that meal there. Very nice, very nice. The white blobs, another sea anemone. That contrast, I think, really sticks out. So, again, those sea anemones are pretty eye-catching. And then here's a cool find. I'm going to actually do a little back kicking so Michelle can get a good photo here. But this is the Shaggy mouse nudibranch, or Shaggy mouse sea slug. They literally look a lot like a drowned rodent because their serrata are kind of a brown color, and they're not as like frilly and floofy as some sea slugs would be. So kind of giving Michelle some space to get that perfect picture, and then we'll come in close and take a look. But this is a sea slug that eats the tentacles of anemones and actually stores those stinging cells that it eats in those little back petals, the serrata, and it can use the anemone's stinging cells for its own defense. So if a predator were to touch the sea slug, it could use those stinging cells to hopefully pack a powerful punch. And I noticed there's a second shaggy mouse sea slug over by these anemones. Again, plumose and swimming, but look how cute it is. They're just funny little slugs that, you know, doing their thing. being cute, being awesome. And here's another one of those swimming anemones. So much cool life. Here's a nice school of some pile perch. You can tell them by kind of that dark bar near their tail. You often see them schooling around with each other, which, I don't know, there's something magical about a school of fish underwater, especially like swimming through them. Oh, love it. Okay, lots more anemones. Peek under here, and ooh, that's a big ol' copper rockfish and another tube-dwelling anemone. It's nice to see really big rockfish. The bigger the rockfish, the more the babies. So that's exciting. Speaking of, there's a little guy. Kind of, you're too big to be a year of young, but we like to see you anyways. Cool, cool. All right. Here's another red rock crab. Some more kind of squashed, I forget what word we chose for the squashed down anemones, but other ones. Nice and standing tall with their feeding branches out. Weird variety of palm tree here. Again, more pile perch, more crabs, more barnacles, more sediment, more stuff to swim through. Lots of things going on here at about 60 feet under the sea, looking at what's here to be found, which turns out is quite a lot of stuff. Here's another, this might be a better look at that striped sea perch. Got another rockfish. Also a California sea cucumber. Those nice spiky blobs. They look kind of intimidating, but are actually soft like jello. There's kind of that blue line, that lateral line of the sea perch there. They're so pretty. But sea cucumbers, you're cool too. I enjoy seeing you and knowing that if I were to mess with you and you were to feel threatened, you could easily eviscerate all of your guts out at me and they'd be sticky and irritating. And if I was a predator, I'd get confused. Well, you could crawl away and regrow your internal organs because you're awesome like that. Here's some strange structures. That looks like we have some hermit crabs playing King of the Hill. Taking a closer look here, I'll notice the red jointed legs here. That lets me know it's a bearing hermit crab. Cool to see that. Two of them and almost a cobra-like looking piece of seaweed here. That's silly. Nice big hermit crabs. A little rockfish, king of, or queen of that pillar. Maybe a snail on top of this next pillar. An anemone on top of the other one. Very nice. Now, something I've really enjoyed about our new digital format of Pier Into the Nights is the ability to actually take a little bit of more time and look up some of the things we're talking about. This was a new piece of kelp for me, the Fringed Sieve kelp. Initially, I thought it was a midrib or a winged kelp because of that line down the middle, but the bumpy texture led me to figure out it's something totally different. So fun to add a new species to my lists of things that I know about. I just love that. And so hopefully, it's helpful to have the name as well as the species name of the different things that we're finding here for you. I sure know it's helpful for me as a nice little refresher course to be looking up what is that called again? How do I spell the scientific name? Okay. Good stuff there. Here's another little rockfish. Again, not quite. Oh, maybe it was small enough to be in the year of young, but it's more of that cool kelp. Now that I'm seeing it, I will notice it everywhere. Fun when you take the time to notice something, you're more aware of it. And so I'd be curious to know, in the comments, maybe what's something you've been noticing more of lately. Have you been going on, social distant walks and visiting parks or trees or other local beaches? What are you finding out there and getting to know? Anyways, here's another nice little rockfish between these lovely giant plumose anemones. I'm going to take a peek and see kind of the mouth which is also the butt of this anemone here. You see the various tentacles. That's kind of cool. Again, Stina, stay longer and look at things for more time. Notes for next time. We'll get better at this. But again, just so excited to have you all on this dive with us here at Les Davis Marine Park in Tacoma, Washington. Checking out all the cool structure and everything that's living on it and around it here in the South Puget Sound and Greater Salish Sea. Now, this is a cool rock covered in kelp crabs and cucumbers, and oh my gosh, okay, this is rad. Down below, kind of in this crevice, is a white blob. This is a mass of eggs, and my guess is it's lingcod eggs. Now, I don't see that kind of scary parent lurking around guarding them. Normally they do, so I'm going to kind of come around this edge and we're going to see if we can get a better look at that egg mass, because that is a very fun find. Again, lots of other creatures to see as we're, looking at this. More rockfish, kelp crabs, anemones, California sea cucumbers, but I'm going to reach into this little crevice here and just take a quick peek at lingcod eggs. That is cool. Those will be, I don't know, thousands of little lingcod babies. Hey, kelp crabs. Nice to see you hanging out in a nice little pile there. Oh, fun. Okay, that's awesome. On to, let's see. Oh, where were we? Okay. There's a nice kelp crab, and close to it is a blobby little creature. This is a tunicate. This is our closest marine invertebrate relative, or invertebrate relative, the tunicate. Cool stuff. Oh, fun. I love the way that the dive light plays with the shadows, the seaweeds here. Gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous. So fun. I'm peeking at what Michelle was looking at, and I am so sorry that this is the cutest thing that you can't actually see. A leopard sea slug, tinier than my thumb. Oh, adorable. Hopefully Michelle got a good picture. Maybe we'll share that as in the Wild Side Weekly as our photo of the week. So make sure you're subscribed to our newsletter to stay up to date with what Harbor Wild Watch is up to. Hey, little red rock crab, showing off your ability to use those pointy toes to climb on all sorts of surfaces. Very impressive. Anemone looks like it's maybe taking a little nap. Had too much eggnog this season. Whew, buddy. Now, there's a lingcod guarding some eggs. I want to get close and show you more, but a little sediment kick up, and I'm intimidated, so we'll keep moving along. Look at this nice coral and algae that's giving all this structure kind of that purple color. That's so pretty. And then some shrimp, and oh my gosh, you guys, behind this seaweed is the itty-bittiest, cutest little year of young rockfish. Deep body, no dorsal spot. We'll record that in our log. Oh, what a cutie. And some lined chitons, shrimp, 38 feet. We're 32 minutes into our dive. Rocking and rolling here, folks. Adding some community science to this splash. It's my favorite thing to do, is our monthly rockfish surveys. So if you're a scuba diver and you want to come look for these baby rockfish, I would love to, teach you how to add a twist of science to your scuba. That'd be so great. More eyes the better. Here's a kelp perch. It's kind of a more golden version of the shiner perch with a pointier nose. They're kind of sleepy at this time of night, but fun to cross paths with them. And then more anemones, some red seaweed, another one of those kelp perch cruising around. Those look more like shiner perch to me. Hard to tell without a closer look, but they have the classic yellow bars, kind of that striping along their sides. rockfish, all sorts of fish just moseying around. And then, oh my gosh, y'all, we have an octopus. And I'm a good dive buddy, so I'm so sorry that I'm about to look away from this beauty to be like, hey, Michelle, come check out this awesome octopus we just found. And then as soon as I look away, oh, it's gonna dive back into its hole. But based on the size, I could say that that's either a juvenile giant Pacific octopus or a very large Pacific red octopus. Kind of hard to tell when you don't get a good look at it. So sorry about that. Not only are they masters of camouflage and that they can change the texture and color of their skin, but they can fit into tiny little holes, even though that hole wasn't that tiny. It's quick to get away because they are delicious. So lots of things want to eat them. So it's good that they can hide away, I guess. Even though, yeah, we want to see them. But it looks like Michelle's pointing out something to me. I'm gonna mosey that way after hi Rockfish. We'll see what she's showing us. And it looks like, oh, it's a cool crab. This is a hermit crab. They're kind of yellow and fuzzy. They're really cute, and we don't see them a ton intertidally, although every once in a while we'll catch a glimpse. So kind of a different crab than we normally get to see. We saw a couple of these earlier, but let's talk about the leather star. This is one that has been fairly resistant to the sea star wasting disease. They literally feel like wet leather. They're pretty cool. Also known as the garlic star because they smell like garlic. Not something you should do while scuba diving because, you know, breathing underwater, not a thing. Anyways, so we're just going to keep moving along. I think I'm still kind of bummed I didn't get a closer look at the octopus here, but yay for some striped sea perch and more leather stars, more lovely giant plumose anemones, and couch potato rockfish. Look at you. Okay, fine, you're not a couch potato. You're very active. Cool. Yeah. Now, moving on to a new blob of sea anemones. It looks like there's a nice, healthy, big ochre star here. These ochre stars are keystone species, so they help maintain a rich biodiversity of life here, or where they're found. So good to see a nice, big, healthy star like this. Cruising over, nice patch of striped sea perch. Looking for dinner. Some California sea cucumbers on the edge of that wall there. And, oh, look at all of those plumose anemones. This will be a fun thing to check out. Again, that contrast is really just draws you in when you see these white masses of anemones underwater. The dark, they really stand out. And there are a lot of them all congregating on this structure here. Again, some of them are extended with those nice big feeding branches, others retracted. As we get a little closer to this structure, I always think it's fun to peek in between the cracks. There's a little kelp perch. There's all sorts of life living on, around, within structure like this. And what's catching my eye right now is a cluster of feather duster tube worms. These are a really popular animal to find kind of growing on docks. They're a worm that can build their own shell, and it gets bigger as they grow. And the little feather duster plume at the end, kind of a funny Dr. Seuss tree, is the feeding branches of this polychaete worm that when you poke it, that one's gooing weird, so I don't know why I didn't retract, but they should hide in that shell. And there's a nice little rockfish behind there, some kelp crabs. Again, all sorts of life. I got way too close to that anemone. It decided, whoa, let me hide here. But very cool to kind of just spend a lot of time peeking around a structure like this, because you'll see cool things like this red Irish lord guarding a clutch of eggs. That is a really neat find. Some beautiful parenting in action here. Nice to see that really pretty fish. Wow, love that. Moving right along, more anemones. more life. It is just cool to look at things like this. I'm noticing some giant barnacles here. You can see the feet that it extends out into the water to capture plankton and then eat all that food out from between its toes. So here's another shaggy mouse sea slug. I wonder if it's munching on this anemone here. Ooh. And now my arm in comparison to the giant plumose anemone. So it can get a meter tall. So again, this reef here isn't a natural reef. It's all put here by humans. That tire is definitely a good example of that, which maybe is more of a bad example of that. Tire is not ideal as reef structure, but happens to be pretty prevalent here in the Puget Sound. Surprisingly, animals do grow on it. So I know at this point, Michelle and I are starting to wrap up our dive, and here's a leopard sea slug, a little bit bigger, better idea of that tiny thing you couldn't see earlier. So we're making our way across the shallows, kind of this muddy bottom, scattered with some different species of seaweed here. And of course, just because we're in shallow water doesn't mean there's not things to see. Here's a roughback sculpin. We like to call it the punk rockfish because of that pointy dorsal fin. But yeah, so cruising around here, we'll still see lots of things as we wrap up our dive. So check out this nice big red rock crab. That brilliant bright red is just gorgeous. Here's, again, hand for comparison. I almost want to eat you. Sorry. You protect these things so you can eat them, right? Is that how this works? Anyways, part of the deal is we need to get to 20 feet and stay there for 3 minutes to kind of off-gas some of the nitrogen that's been absorbed into our bodies. So we get to do that while we enjoy the company of this graceful crab and sculpin here. Graceful crabs are pretty similar to Dungeness crabs, but they never get to an edible size. They have a couple other distinguishing characteristics that I'm sure we'll talk about at another Pier Into the Night, because or now, because here's another one, but I'm not going to look at it because I don't know what I'm doing with the camera. Anyways, this cool find is a snake prickleback. They kind of look like they have leopard spots, and they are very quick, as you will see, darting away from what I'm guessing it thinks I'm a hungry predator. Sorry, buddy. Flatfish are another common thing to find in kind of this muddy bottom habitat. My best guess is that this is an English sole, but I'm kind of torn between rock sole. Hard to tell on these guys without being able to flip them over, at least for the identification tricks I know. For English soles, you can see the eye from the underside, but hard to do that when they swim away from you. Here we are, kind of getting probably a minute into that safety stop here. We're at 48 minutes total for our dive time. It's been a good dive here with y'all. Of course, I've edited out a little bit of time here because, you know, picking up trash, have to adjust our mask, try and communicate with our dive buddy, do some things as we're going along, but turns out multitasking and filming Pier Into the Night is a thing we can do. So here's another graceful crab next to a horse clam siphon. That is the tube that one hole brings water in. The clam digests the food and then squirts water out the other side. Nice little eelgrass bit here. I think that means we're getting close to an eelgrass bed, which has lots of fun things to look at. And this looks like a much happier species that we saw at the very beginning of the dive, the black belly eel pout here. It's both eyes very intact, looking good. Glad to see there's some healthy species out here. And a little shrimp. And, ooh, this is a good one. This is the frosted sea slug, or frosted nudibranch. Has those white edges to the serrata on its back. Really a beautiful snail, not a snail, slug that we just featured in the Wild Side Weekly, thanks to our virtual intern Hayden. They wrote a great little write-up on them, so feel free to check that out if you haven't seen that in your email already. And then, of course, here's another squid. Oh, what a good find. And it has another fish in its mouth, so they are, again, active nocturnal hunters. And you can see that bright big eye. Good for being nocturnal, I suppose, as it jets off into the dark of the night. Still so cool to see them. Now, for the rest of the dive, we're finally shallow enough to get into this eelgrass habitat where there's lots of life hiding, from this crab to this nice flatfish and all sorts of other critters. So this is another favorite habitat for year of young rockfish surveys. I know Michelle's probably looking for a spiny lumpsucker, so even though, yep, we're in very shallow water, we're still kind of looking for things, and sometimes they're cool crabs like this one, or, okay, you're trying to be sneaky, but we still see you. Red rock crabs hiding in the sand. Blah, blah, blah. What else can we find here? Just kind of, we still have a lot of air at this point, so why not extend the dive a little bit more, because you might see things like this lovely sailfin sculpin hiding between the blades of eelgrass. They have that nice dark eye bar and that really distinct fin that extends well above their head, and as they swim, which I'm surprised it's not doing right now as close as I'm getting to it, but their dorsal fin has this really gorgeous flutter. Kind of reminds me of the squid we saw earlier and how it flutters its fins as it moves through the water. Very cool find. Here's a little kelp crab hanging out on the eelgrass. Hi, cutie. Blending in kind of pretty well, I'd say. Some more shiner perch. Kind of sleepy at this dark hour. And with that, we are back at the end. So Michelle has expertly navigated us home. Thanks, Michelle, for being a great dive buddy, feature of the show. I'd say this dive we got to see a lot of great things, and just a quick little recap here. We'll go through some fun photos of what I think are highlights. But thank you so much for joining us on tonight's Pier Into the Night live dive adventure at Les Davis. If you enjoyed this, please share with your friends. That's a fun, free way that you can help support Harbor Wild Watch. Or if you'd like to financially support us, head on over to our website for a donation. Thanks so much for tuning in. And of course, as always, learn, have fun.